Welcome back everyone, it's Eric from Rare Candy here. Today we are back on the channel taking a look at another Darkness Ablaze deck profile, and today we're going to be checking out the new Charizard VMAX, one of the two new Fire VMAXs we're getting in Darkness Ablaze. I know a lot of people are hype about Scorch, and we're definitely going to take a look at that on the channel eventually too, but everyone loves Charizard. We got to see how Charizard can stack up to his other VMAX sibling in this set. Charizard always kind of historically gets burned in the TCG, no pun intended, with some oftentimes mediocre cards. So I really wanted to see if the new one has any potential in the format as well. And depending on when you watch this, we actually will be having a live match recorded with this deck showing off Charizard VMAX in action. So whenever that gets posted, I will have a link down below in the description for you to check that out as well. But let's get into the deck here. So up first, we have 4 copies of Volcanion. So Volcanion here, mainly playing it for this Flare Starter attack for a Fire Energy. You search your deck for a Fire Energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon. But if it's your first turn going second, then you get 3 energy instead. And that's really what we are going all in on. Ideally every game, we really want to hit the turn 1 of Flare Starter. And that's what we're sort of building our engine around here. So I'm not playing any Jirachis, anything like that. I tried a Jirachi engine, absolutely hated it. I found it was much more consistent just to go all in on these guys. It increases your odds of starting with it. And yeah, I've been liking it substantially more than Jirachi. High Heat Blast is also still a decent attack though. For 2 fire, you do 50 plus 60 more if you have 4 or more fire energy in play. So, I mean, with Charizard, we're honestly sort of going all in on the one-shot strategy. So you might not need High Heat Blast, but sometimes it can be nice at picking off some low HP basics like a Jirachi or something like that. But mainly speaking, we're just using a Flare Starter here if possible. So that is our ideal starter in the deck. But going on, we have 3 copies of Charizard V to kick things off. So of course we need some of these before we get to the VMAX, but Charizard V isn't horrible either. Its first attack for 3 colors does 80, but its second attack for 2 fire and 2 colors does 220, and you discard 2 energy. So 220 actually is kind of a good number to hit for. That one-shots basically all of the different like base form Pokemon Vs out there. So that's actually kind of a decent attack I did want to briefly highlight. But of course, guys, the big star of the show here is going to be the new Charizard VMAX. So Charizard VMAX is a VMAX, as you can tell, but has 330 HP. It has 2 different attacks, the first of which for 3 energy does 100, but then its second attack for 3 fire and 2 colorless does 300, and you discard 2 energy. So kind of similar to the base form Charizard, but both attacks are kind of juiced up. And really we're going all in on this second attack here with the VMAX. 300 is a really good number to hit for. It is a little bit shy of taking one-shots on opposing VMAXs, but we have plenty of damage modifiers in this deck, and I think we can actually do that pretty consistently that I've been finding. So that's what we're going all in on. And one thing I really do like about the Charizard VMAX is that 2 of the energies are colorless. So that means we can actually use triple acceleration to get this thing powered up a little bit easier, turning that 5 energy attack cost basically into a 4 energy attack cost, which is much, much better. So that's really cool. This is the whole engine the deck is going to be based around. Everything else in here is just in an attempt to support this core sort of strategy. Up next from there, we have 2 copies of Galarian Zigzagoon. So Zigzagoon, of course, we are just playing it for this ability. Whenever we bench it from hand, we get to put 2 damage counter, or 1 damage counter on one of our opponent's Pokemon. But since we have the 2 copies, we're going to have a little bit more flexibility there. And also, Zigzagoon is just really important to the core strategy of the deck. And if we prize Zigzagoon in our VMAX matchups, I think that's going to be kind of tough for us. So that's why I am opting for the second copy here. I do have 3 copies of Scoop Up Net in this list as well, which you'll see. But I opted, instead of for 4 Scoop Up Net and 1 Zigzagoon, I sort of changed the third Scoop Up, or the 4th Scoop Up Net to a second Zigzagoon. Takes up the same amount of deck space, but this gives us kind of an edge in terms of if we prize one of these, and also helps make our Pokemon communications live more frequently too. So that's why I settled on the 2 copies of Zigzagoon. Up next from there, we have 2 copies of the Dene GX. Of course, for that Dede change ability, discard our hand and draw 6. But up next from there, we have 1 copy of the new Crobat V in the list as well. So I think a lot of these sort of fire decks have played a kind of a thick Dedenne count up until this point, and while I still wanted to do that, I don't really see a reason not to play a Crobat instead of a third Dedenne, just because with Crobat you draw until you have 6, which is fine. I don't really think that's any better or worse than Dede Change most of the time. But the big thing here is you can only use one Dede Change per turn. So you discard your hand and draw 6, and that's it. You can't use it again. Same thing for Crobat's ability, but you can mix and match these abilities, meaning you can Dede Change, discard your hand, draw 6, and if you whiff maybe your Welder that you're looking for, or whatever card you're hunting down, you can still maybe play a Quick Ball, go for Crobat, and attempt to draw some more cards and find what you need that way. So yeah, I've been loving the the one Crobat instead of the third Dedenne. I think that's like just much better than the third Dedenne here. And then from there, to round out our Pokemon line, we have one copy of Eldegoss V as well. Eldegoss V, it's kind of similar to the Crobat and Dedenne we have, but its ability, whenever we bench it, we get to put a supporter from discard back into our hand. Really like Eldegoss specifically in Welder-based decks. So that is our Pokemon line, guys. Going into our supporters, of course, we have 4 copies of Welder, debatably the most important card in the deck, outside of Charizard VMAX. You guys are probably plenty familiar with this card at this point. You attach 2 fire energies from hand to one of your Pokemon, draw 3 cards. So this is our main form of energy acceleration after the first turn. Going on from there, though, we have 3 copies of Professor's Research. So this is kind of an interesting inclusion I have here. A lot of the Welder-based decks historically have basically just run Welders, and that's been almost it for their draw options. But I actually do like Research here because we aren't playing a Jirachi engine. Jirachi historically would be one of the ways you could dig deeper on your turn to find additional pieces, but since we're not playing that, and we don't play enough supporters, I think, to really warrant playing Pokegear, I really have kind of found that I like Research here. Especially on turn 1, you don't even care if you hit Welder or not. You really just want Volcanion, Charizard, and 1 Fire Energy. So you really don't even need to play Welder to make that combo happen. Research can be another way we can help pull off that sort of combo. And also, too, we can actually search out triple acceleration energy with something like Giant Hearth. So we're going to need normal just draw methods to find our triples in the deck, and something like Research can do that pretty well here. So I am liking the copies of Research in the deck. It's been pretty good up until this point. Up next from there, though, we do have 2 copies of Boss's Orders to round out our supporter cards. Kind of a lower count of Boss's Orders. I think a lot of my post-rotation lists up until now have been playing 3, but with a Welder-based deck, sometimes it can be a little bit harder to take a turn off to find a turn to use this. But we do have the Eldegoss V, which can effectively become your 3rd Boss's Orders, or if it's not going to be like your 5th Welder in a game. So 2 Boss's Orders just to choose what we want to take knockouts on. Up next from there, we have 2 copies of Giant Hearth, a staple of fire decks. So of course we discard a card from hand and search our deck for 2 fire energy, put them in our hand. So you guys know the combo. You Giant Hearth, Welder those 2 energies, attach another for turn, and keep on attacking. So going into our items, we have 4 copies of Quick Ball to kick things off. Pretty obvious inclusion basically in any deck in the format. Discard a card from your hand, search your deck for a basic. But we are also playing 4 copies of Pokemon Communication in the list as well. So unfortunately, Charizard VMAX cannot be searched out by our Quick Balls, so we do need a way at searching those. Also, Pokemon Communication just sometimes can be nice just at also setting up your basics as well, but it's kind of more so we're playing it because we need a way to search out our Charizards. Up next from there, we have 2 copies of Vitality Band. This is the other modifier card that we have in here. So of course, Vitality Band, it doesn't do too much, but it's a tool card, and when attached, your Pokemon's attacks do 10 more damage. So between this and our Zigzagoons, we can actually start to hit over that 300 damage cap that Charizard is at. And with a lot of the popular VMAXs having 320 HP, this is actually really nice because Vitality Band is going to push this up to 310, and Zigzagoon is going to be at 320. And then with things like Scoop Up Net or our second Zigzagoon, we can actually climb over that to even one-shot things like Eternatus VMAX or maybe even an opposing Charizard VMAX as well. So this is just one of the modifiers that we kind of have to play if we do want to hit over that 300 amount. So going on from there, we have 2 copies of Fire Crystal, another sort of staple we've seen in fire decks. Just to get 3 fire energies from discard back into our hand. Up next from there, though, we have 4 copies of Switch in the deck too. So it's just really important that we find on turn 1 Volcanion in the active spot with a Fire Energy and Charizard on our bench. So playing the 4 Switch, just in case we don't start the Volcanion, we can make that happen. Also, Charizard has kind of a clunky retreat cost anyway, so having some extra mobility options in the deck certainly don't hurt. And then from there, to round out our items, we have 3 copies of Scoop Up Net as well. So Scoop Up Net is going to allow us to pick up one of our non-Pokemon V or non-Pokemon GX, Volcanion, and more notably the Zigzagoon. These are basically going to be another way at getting plus 10 damage on the field, and also sometimes we can just use these as like retreating methods if need be as well. That's going to be it for our trainers. Going on to our energies, we have 3 copies of Triple Acceleration Energy to kick things off here. So this is a really cool card with Charizard VMAX. It can only be attached to evolution Pokemon, but it provides 3 colorless energy and you discard it at the end of your turn. So like I said early on, guys, this basically changes that 5 energy attack cost into a 2 energy attack cost. And instead of having to discard 2 energies, we only have to discard 1. So we're not playing the 4 count just because honestly, we're probably not going to use Charizard's attack more than 3 times in the game. In a lot of cases, I think you'll probably just end up using it maybe twice, but we're playing the 3rd copy just in case we have to discard one at some point, or one gets prized, whatever it might be. So I think 3 is kind of the sweet spot I found for this list. So going on from there, we still have some basic fire energies. We have 3, 6, 9, 11 copies of fire energy in total in the deck. So yeah, unfortunately the triple accelerations do kind of dig into our fire energy counts, but 11 should still be plenty enough to, I think, consistently be able to find to use with our welders whenever we need them. So that's going to be it for our Charizard VMAX deck profile. As you guys can see, kind of going all in on the Charizard VMAX. I know Fire has a lot of different other backup attackers you could potentially try to find space for, but I was thinking if we can just consistently set up Charizard and be attacking with that, that's pretty much going to get us where we need to go most of the time. So that's why we're just going all in on that 300 damage attack and ways to sort of creep over the 300 cap with things like the Zigzagoons and the Vitality Bands as well. Like I said, guys, too, if you do want to see Charizard VMAX in action, I will have a link down below in the description to the match that we tried out the deck in whenever that video does go live as well. But definitely stay tuned to the channel. We have plenty more Darkness Ablaze coverage coming up. And if you did enjoy today's video, be sure to like and subscribe. And also consider supporting this channel as well by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/rarecandytcg or by picking up some merch from our online store at rarecandytcg.com. It would mean a lot. But as always, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.